in his first event. He's just coming up to the finish line.
And Drew.
Yep.
Drew just missed grooving.
Dumbbell doing a great job. Joe doing exceptionally well.
Great job. He's going to make that turn, let's see.
Great performance.
You can almost see it starting to drop as it gets lower to the ground as it's opening the hands up. But this is a gutsy performance.
That is
this.
gutsy.
Up.
See, look how smooth that is. It just doesn't look like he's struggling.
That's a podium.
Yeah.
That's a. Well done, Joe.
Mate.
Hello. So we're doing another video about my secrets to winning England's Strongest Man 2026. So it's just a little thing that I thought I'd do and kind of explain some of the changes I made and some of the things that I did to, like when I looked at this comp, some of the kind of analysis. So the first thing was I knew this was going to be a cardio heavy comp. Now I always do cardio since I've been with Ben as my coach. I'm pretty steady with my cardio, but I thought, what is going to give me that edge? What is going to give me that little bit more? So I went away and did my research, as I do, and I implemented this product into my supplements over the last 6 to 8 weeks. It's called Pico 2. It's an organic mushroom blend. It is cordyceps, reishi, king trumpet, shiitake, turkey tail, and lion's mane. And this is clinically proven to improve your blood oxygen recovery, I think. Anyway, it's really, really good, and a tangible difference when you take it. Tangible difference. This is a cardio heavy comp. Massive reps on dumbbell. Max distance duck walk. Yoke for 30 meters, which is pretty gassy when it's that heavy. So yeah, I knew that I had to be fit for this comp. Fitness was a massive part of it, and Ultimates does run really fast. Not super fast, but it does run fast, and you're not getting massive warm-ups between your lifts and between your events and stuff. Did very little warm-ups all day really, but yeah, that I'm convinced that's a big help. The second one was priorities in training. So I look at the lineup and I look at the events and I say to myself, where is the biggest value for me training wise? So me and Ben, we spoke and I said, look, looking at these events, I need to be prioritising dumbbell for my skill set. I've always been quite good at yoke. That's something we can put on the back burner. Normally get good points in it. Don't need to give it a massive amount of focus. The deadlift, very hard to train for. The pole deadlift, so that's kind of not really in the equation when I'm thinking about this question. Stones, yeah, we're putting stones in. We're training that regularly. I'm not a bad stone lifter by any stretch, so. And then duck walk, yeah, we're putting that in. I've not done a lot of it in my strongman, so yeah. But the big one is dumbbell. I used to be a really poor deadlifter. I was that as well, but I used to be a really poor dumbbell presser. I was for a long time. I neglected it as an event. I whinged about it. I said it was crap. I said I hated it, and I had no place in strongman, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't do you any favours, does it? Get better. That's the simple solution, and that's what I did. So last year for OSG, we had a dumbbell in the final. I didn't make the final, but I did do a lot of dumbbell. And then coming into this, it seems like it's year of the dumbbell. Dumbbell at OSG Europe's, dumbbell at England's, dumbbell in the qualifier. You know, there's a lot of dumbbell. So I said, look, I need to be doing a lot of dumbbell. And Ben said, yeah, fully agree. So I've been doing dumbbell twice a week for 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. So I've done a lot of dumbbell pressing, And that's paid dividends because it meant that in that series of events, my one weakness in the chain was no longer a weakness, and I was able to press the 90 kilo dumbbell for 6 reps, and it was a really awkward dumbbell as well. It wasn't just a standard monster dumbbell, it was the daddy dumbbell, and it's got a huge diameter handle. It's filled with water. It's got massive gas bottles either side welded. Really awkward dumbbell if you've not used it before, and that's, you can see that in the results from the event in the competition. You know, a lot of guys zeros, some ones, and only a handful got more than that really. So that's number 2, prioritising your training. The third one, tacky strategy. So in the past I've always said, you know, you don't need a lot of tacky, I don't use a lot of tacky. True. This, again, situational awareness, understanding what the situation and the climate and the specific event calls for. These stones, I've already gone up to them, I've had a look round them, I've touched them. They're dry, they're dusty. They're not covered in tacky. The other thing is, not a lot of people lifted that 160 stone at the end. They're not covered in tacky. They're not saturated. They're not sealed. So it's raw concrete. Raw concrete absorbs tacky. So yeah, I'm taking all this in and I'm thinking, I need a lot of tacky for this run. So I've put a lot of tacky on my hands, but as anyone knows that has done stones, it disappears over the run anyway, because when you're using raw stones like that, it just gets sucked into the stone. It's crazy. So I've put a lot of tacky on my hands. I've put some here as well, not all the way down my forearm, but kind of here in this area, so below the heel of my hand and just into my forearm. And then I've put huge blobs on the backs of my hands, massive, more than I'd ever normally use. But I've assessed the situation at the moment and I've said, this calls for a load of tacky. And it was the perfect strategy. So I did the first 4 stones, no bother, in a decent enough time. But I wanted that 160. I went up to it, I grabbed it, you know, put my arms around it, and my hands immediately slipped. And I thought, well, that stone is dusty, it's got no tacky on it. So I've took these huge globules of tacky, I've put them all over my hands, some onto my wrists, some onto my heel of my hand, and no slippage after that. But I needed so much tacky, more than I'd ever normally use, and that is a really important skill to have, to be able to assess what the stone calls for at the moment. There's not a lot of stones that are like that. There's not a lot of stones where you need an abundance of tacky. A lot of the time that's going to work against you, depending on your run. So, you know, word of warning, don't take that as you should be using loads of tacky every time you do stones. It'll often work against you, especially if you're in a big lineup when you're against 20 people, and if you're near the back of that queue, there's going to normally be a load of tacky on all of them. Whereas this situation, the stone's dry as hell. Tacky's not sticking to people that well anyway because of how hot it is. I use grade 3 tacky. That's another thing. Make sure you use a higher grade tacky if it's hot. I always use Cerberus tacky. I think it's the best. I'm not a massive fan of Spider Tack. I'm not a massive fan of any other tacky really. Cerberus is consistent and easy to get hold of. So yeah, really important to make that assessment and make sure that you thinking about the run in front of you. So yeah, they're my 3 clickbait secrets. Not really secrets, are they? But you get my meaning. There's not much more to it than that. Train your events properly, assess your situation, know what you need to do. If you can make micro adjustments in things like, you know, your supplements for dependent on the training you're doing, I mean the comp you're doing, do it. You know, it doesn't take a genius for these things, but they make all the difference in my opinion. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Brown! Come on!